What's up, guys? Welcome back to Captivative. Y'all, like we've been saying over and over and over again, this pregnancy has just flown by, but like it really has, and we're really at the end. Because we are getting so close to delivery, I thought it would be really fun to take a look back and go through my birth story with Maddie. I didn't talk about like the birth from my perspective. I thought it would be fun to like just talk about the nitty-gritty of having Maddie. Before I get started, I have to set the stage. You guys have been following us for a long time, you already know, but if you haven't and you're new and you're just checking this out, my husband Cedric was in the NFL throughout my entire pregnancy with Maddie. When we first found out we were pregnant, he was with the Minnesota Vikings, and it was perfect. I'm from Minnesota, and my family's in Minnesota. We bought a home in Minnesota, and so it just seemed like the perfect plan and time for us to be with the Minnesota Vikings. However, God had a very different plan for us. When I was about 6 months pregnant, almost 7 months pregnant, Cedric got unexpectedly cut from the Vikings. It's always unexpected, right? You can get cut anytime, so I guess you should say it is expected. He had just been doing really well, and all of what the coaches were saying was really positive. We didn't anticipate him being cut in May before like camp and everything. We thought he would at least have a shot, you know, to go through camp and preseason with the Vikings. So at the end of May, very pregnant, my husband gets cut. In the NFL, that means that you start going on all of these free agent workouts to different teams, and you travel and you work out, and if they like you, they sign you, you stay. If they don't like you, you fly home. And so it was just like a very bumpy time in our life. Bumpy, but also just like Ced was traveling to different places. We never knew if he would like stick there and what that meant for me and the baby. Ultimately, Ced was out of a job for the entire summer, and I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, let's get through the birth of our first baby, and then we can like figure out the next step. So again, God laughed at my plan. The Sunday before my due date, so I'm 39 and a half weeks pregnant. We are sitting at my mom's enjoying a nice summer barbecue. Ced didn't have his phone on him, and he goes in and he's got all these texts and calls from his agent. Everybody was trying to get a hold of him because the Cincinnati Bengals wanted to fly him out, not like the next day, not like in 10 hours, no, in like 2 hours to Cincinnati to try out for their team. So at 39 and a half weeks pregnant, it was like about 6 o'clock, we race home, get Ced packed up, race to the airport. I drop him off, very, very, very pregnant, like the most pregnant, and say goodbye to my husband for who knows how long. It could be 24 hours, it could be for months, who knows. Ced barely makes his flight. He makes it to Cincinnati. Monday he works out, the team signs him. Awesome, right? He's got a job, but it's in Ohio, and I'm in Minnesota, and I'm about to literally have a baby any second. Training camp is like the most important time for the players to be present, because they go from over 90 players and they cut the roster down to 53 throughout the preseason. So as Cedric was just joining their team, it was so important for him to be there. The coaches knew that his wife at home was about to have a baby. Asked Cedric if he could have me go to the doctor and see if I could get induced on Tuesday, August 1st, then have the baby on Wednesday, my due date, August 2nd, because that was their day off. This is what the team is proposing. See if she can have an elective induction so that we can send you home for the off day and you can have the baby and then come back for training camp on Thursday. My biggest focus, concern, of course, was the baby's health and my health. But I moved my prenatal appointment up one day. I went into the doctor on Tuesday. They checked my cervix. I was like 0. I was at like not dilated at all. And they just said, your cervix isn't favorable enough for an elective induction. And I said, that's totally fine. Like, I did not want to force something to happen that wasn't ready. And while I so wanted my husband to be present for the birth of our first baby, I did not want to put myself or the baby at risk. I was just so emotional about the thought of him not being there. I also knew that like what he had going on in Ohio was really important for our family as well. And so I was just at peace knowing that however it worked out, whether he was here or not, that's how it was supposed to be. And I wasn't going to force something to get moving if it wasn't ready. The doctor did strip my membranes on Tuesday, which they would have done at 40 weeks anyway, and I was 39 and 6 days. So I go home Tuesday and I'm like, hey, Sed, like we tried, but you know, we'll just have to try to make this baby come naturally tomorrow. Like, they're not gonna induce me. He was totally on board too. He was like, you gotta do what's best for you and the baby. But I really don't wanna miss it. So of course Wednesday comes, his off day, and goes, and no sign of labor. Going back the day before, I had some spotting, which is normal after getting your membranes swiped. And I didn't have like a big mucus plug like come out. If you're a mom, then that doesn't gross you out. If you're not a mom, don't Google it. You don't want to see it. I go to bed Wednesday night at my mom's. I stayed at my mom's because I didn't want to be alone. At 3 a.m. on Thursday morning, I wake up with some pain in my back. I'm not having this baby till August 6th on Sunday. That is his next off day. I'm waiting until the 6th. Okay, so it's August 3rd at 3 a.m. and I wake up out of my sleep with some pain. And I'm like, I think it's just gas. Okay, go to the bathroom, do some child's pose, like try to just like have some pain relief and go back to sleep. Okay, 5 a.m. I wake up, same pain in my back. I'm like, this is just gas. This isn't anything. I'm 40 weeks pregnant, but it's not signs of labor. It's totally cool. I was up from then on. So it started out like just pain in my back, right? So it wasn't what I was expecting to feel for contraction. So I had back labor the entire time. It's 5 a.m. Cedric's just getting up for the day. I text him and I'm saying, hey, Sed, like I'm having some pain, but I think it's just gas, so like don't panic, like don't come home, just stay there, whatever. And he's like, okay, but I want you to let me know if you're in labor. Mom's still sleeping, I'm just chilling downstairs. The contractions I'd say were about like 8 minutes apart, lasting maybe 30 seconds. I was counting them, like they were definitely regular and starting. I didn't want to alarm anyone because I was in denial. I was like, I'm not in labor. So I texted my mom around 7 and I'm like, hey, are you up yet? Like I didn't go up there to try to wake her, just sent her a text. And like at 7:30 she comes down and she's like, oh my gosh, you're in labor. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's not. It's fine. It's not. Cedric calls because he's getting ready to go out on the practice field. Hey, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. I don't think I'm in labor. And he's like, okay, are you sure? Because I'm about to go out in the practice field. And once I'm out there, I won't have my phone. And so if you are, you need to tell me. I'm like, hold on. Have a contraction. He's hearing it over. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk to my coach. So meanwhile in Cincinnati, Sed runs and finds his coach and he's like, hey, my wife is in labor. Knowing that he doesn't know if he leaves what that means for his position on the team could like jeopardize his job, which are very hard to come by in the NFL. So I was like, no, Sed, like you should stay there, just like stay, it's fine, it's fine. And he's like, I'm not missing this. So he talks to his coach and the coach is totally on board, thank God. And he's like, no, like totally go home, go, like go. Once Cedric got the go ahead from the team, my aunt booked him on the next flight home. Once I knew he was coming, I was like, holy crap, we need to make this baby come. So it was kind of like a rainy day I went outside, I was walking up and down the block, walking up the hill. Like, I'm like, now that he's coming, I don't want him to come and then have to go back and we don't have a baby. Then he's out a day of practice. He likely will miss like the actual birth. Like, we need to make this happen. So I was like eating pineapple, drinking raspberry tea, walking, like going up and down the stairs, like I'm making this baby come. Contractions kept progressing. We were about, I'd say 5 minutes apart, lasting for a minute, but Cedric's flight was delayed and he gets into Minneapolis at about 1 p.m. and his friend picked him up and brought him to the house. He comes in. I was just waiting for Seth. I have 2 more contractions at home and we leave. So he walks in and it's game time. Like, he didn't get the warm up. He missed the warm up. It's game time. My mom, my sister, Cedric, and I all pile into my mom's car and we drive to the hospital and I get checked into the maternal assessment. They check me and I'm already at about 4.5 centimeters dilated.
You're 4. Super thin, bulging bag of water. Baby's head's right there.
So I was definitely in labor and they weren't sending me home because that was the other thing is like, I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital and have them turn me around. Like, my mom kept being like, let's just go, let's just go. I'm like, no, we're waiting for Sed. I don't want to get there and have him send me home, whatever. So we get there, they're not sending me home. I get in a room almost immediately. Best friend's mom was the charge nurse on call that day and she roomed us, which was pretty cool. And I'm having a baby. From 1:30 when we got to the hospital until about 5, I labored naturally with my mom and Ashley and Sed and the nurse, and everything was going fine, but again, it was all back labor. And y'all, that is no joke. Like, it's just no joke. I tried going in the tub and like Sed put warm water on my back and that felt okay for a while. Then I get out of the tub and I'm sitting on the toilet like trying to work through some contractions there. Cedric, God bless him, he was so hungry from like running around and not eating whatever. My sister had brought him lunch and it like just the smell, oh my god. This was the only time that I cried during my labor and delivery was when Sed was like meeting me face to face while I'm sitting on the toilet like dealing with these contractions, and he's like, you're doing great, like talking to me, encouraging me, and I'm like, oh, like get away from me, your breath is terrible, and like turn vomit, like barely miss his face. Love you, Sed. And I didn't have like a firm, this is exactly what I want plan. And I just feel like whether you do or you don't, like that's great for you. So I went in just saying I want to labor naturally as long as possible. And if I get an epidural, great. And if I don't, great. So at about 5 p.m., I asked to be checked for the first time. I tried nitrous oxide at that point and I did not like it. I didn't like the way it made me feel and it didn't seem to take away my pain. So the nurse has me get in the bed and she checks me and she's like,
oh, honey, you're a good 6 centimeters. That's it.
That's it. Like, I felt like I had been laboring. I had been laboring for over 12 hours, almost 14 hours at that point, and in the hospital for over 4 hours. And I was like, I turned to Cedric, I was like, I think I want the epidural.
No, that's huge.
I think I want an epidural.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course you can have whatever you want.
And he was like totally supportive. Like, he wanted to encourage me to try to go natural. And he was totally supportive when I was like, no, give me the drugs. As soon as I said, I want the epidural, it felt like it took the anesthesiologist forever to get to my room. Cedric, cut the camera off, please. But it was like 5 minutes. Honestly, as far as the epidural goes, I did not even feel it. Like, I was in so much pain, like the needle going into my back, no big deal. Once you get the epidural, you're stuck in the bed, which is tough. But it's because you can't feel your legs. You're literally numb. I couldn't feel my legs, but I still could feel my back, which meant I could still feel the pain. So now I am just bedridden and writhing in pain. They say when it rains, it pours, and it was totally true for my labor. This was the only time where there was any sort of complication or like scary thing. But as soon as I got the epidural, the nurse checked me, and when she checked me, she accidentally broke my water, which was fine. I was like 8 centimeters dilated at that point. My water broke. Then Maddie's heart rate dropped too low for too long, so 10 nurses rushed to my bedside and like flipped me over in my bed, so I was on my like hands and knees, and they're moving my hips around, like trying to get her heart rate to come back up. And I knew that if I couldn't stay calm during this, that it would mean that I would have an emergency C-section, which was something that I was really hoping to avoid. Cedric's by my bedside. I don't think he knew what was going on, but he was just talking to me saying like, stay calm, like you've got this, you're doing great, whatever. The nurses are able to like move me around, get her heart rate back up, and they flip me back over into the bed. And this nurse next to me has the audacity to say, oh my gosh, like, didn't you feel this? My IV had gotten infiltrated, so my arm had like blown up like a balloon. And I'm like, no lady, like this little thing in my arm is the least of my worries. Like, oh yeah, it's painful, but like not painful compared to everything else that's going on right now. So they had to like move my IV, they kept poking me, whatever. So at the end of it, I just like had bruises all on my arm for weeks. So it's just like 3 things all at the same time. The water broke, the heart rate dropped, and my IV got infiltrated. Of course, when all of like the chaos was going on, it was at about 5:30, which is rush hour, and my clinic is across town, and the on-call doctor is not there yet. So if I would have needed a emergency C-section, it would have just been whoever was at the hospital, which is fine. But of course, like that was another added stress. They left, but I was still feeling the contractions. Like they were putting ice on my back to like see where I could feel the pain, and I could still feel it. So they kept like having me move to different positions in my bed to try to get the drugs to like go to that side. That wasn't working. They had me like press the button to like increase the dose. That wasn't working. So I'm at like 8.5, 9 centimeters, still feeling a lot of pain. And my best friend's mom comes in and she like realizes like this epidural is not working. So she got the anesthetist to come back in. They were able to like get it situated correctly so that there was some relief. At this point, things have calmed down. I'm getting some relief. I'm at about 9.5 centimeters dilated. This is about 6:30 p.m. The doctor arrives and she's like, well, let's try to push past that little bit of cervix. Like having me push, and it's not budging at all. And she's like, okay, stop. I don't want to rip your cervix. Like, let's just wait. Like, you're really close. And I'm like, but are we there yet? Like, why aren't we there yet? At about 7 o'clock, she comes back in and I'm 10 centimeters dilated, thank God. And we start pushing. And this is just after 7. And I pushed for 50 minutes, which, believe it or not, is short for a first-time mom.
Guess what? She has hair. Lots of it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know where in the world she gets that
Keep pushing, babe. She's almost here. She's almost here.
That's great. You're doing good.
Come on, babe.
Again, you're doing good.
Come on, go again, go again.
All the way. Let's go.
Go again, go again. Oh, come on. She's coming. She's coming. She's coming. One more. Come on. Come on.
Your head's there. Don't hurt yourself.
Come on, her head is up. Her head is up. Her head is up. Come on, babe. Come on. She's right there. Oh my God.
Okay, just breathe. Just breathe.
Hello, Pumpkin.
Okay.
Say
She's
hi,
out.
Mama.
Her face is out. Oh, she's out. She's out.
Hello, Mama.
Okay, set her leg.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Cedric, would you like to do the honors, sir?
Yes.
Take this.
Push for 15 minutes and out came my beautiful, perfect Madeline Parker baby, and she was perfect. She was very small. She was 5 pounds, 13 ounces, but she was still about 19.5 inches long, so she wasn't short. She was just skinny mini. She took care of me, delivered the placenta, took care of Maddie. We had lots of skin to skin. Cedric got to have some skin to skin as well. Everything looked really healthy, and so after about an hour or so, we got moved to our postpartum room where my family left so that Cedric, Maddie, and I could have some time alone, but it wasn't much. Maddie was delivered at 8:13 p.m. and we ordered Cane's chicken fingers and ate it, and Cedric went to bed, and I was, getting up with Maddie every 2 hours, but Cedric had to leave the hospital by about 6 a.m. the next morning to go back to Cincinnati for practice that day. It was a crazy day, a crazy week, a crazy last couple of months of pregnancy. But it was perfect. It ended up exactly how it was supposed to. Cedric was there to witness the birth of our first baby, and Madeline was healthy, Mom was healthy. We had so many people present that night and throughout the next couple of days in the hospital. So it was a really just great experience, and I remember leaving the hospital like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I think I could do it again. Like, I really did, apart from those few things, have just like a very smooth labor and delivery process and a very smooth postpartum recovery. So I'm very appreciative of that. But as I look to this one's delivery, I'm finding myself a little bit more anxious this time around just because I had such a great experience the first time. So I'm like, is it gonna be the same? Is it gonna be different? Is the baby gonna come early? Whatever, but nobody knows. That's the thing about everybody's birth story, is everyone's birth story is different. No matter what boxes your delivery checks or doesn't check on your checklist, that's how it's supposed to go, and that's okay. I want to just go in and, hope for certain things, pray for certain things, but at the end of it, I'm just praying for a healthy baby. Any day now, any day, this baby is gonna be here. We're gonna find out the gender, we're gonna have a name. We don't have names yet, but we're gonna have a name. So I'm just really excited, and I'm trying to let go of the anxiety and just find peace in knowing that it's all gonna happen how it's supposed to, and to not stress about it, because that doesn't help anything either. So yeah, any day. All right guys, thanks for tuning in, and until next time.